Hi there, I'm Mary Susie from Bead Me a Story. Today I'm going to show you how to make a full Persian stretch bracelet or speed full Persian, or this could be called full Persian with closed rings. Okay, I'm going to be working in this color palette, and the reason is I just wanted 4 colors that were going to contrast a whole lot. Okay, so I know it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but when you're learning something and you need to practice it, it's really nice to do it in the right number of colors where you can segregate each unit that you're working on. So I just wanted to show you, this one is made with our 10.1 millimeter rubber O-rings and 18 gauge 1/4 inch jump rings. Okay. This one that you see here, the biggest one, this one is made with our 15 millimeter O-rings and 16 gauge 3/8 inch jump rings. And then finally, I have just a piece of this one here. This one's made with our 12 millimeter O-rings and our 5/16, 16 gauge 5/16 jump rings. So you can make this in any of these sizes, and I just want you to see that the thickness will change. So that's why I did it in this size. It's the most compact, and then this is larger, and then this is the largest. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so to start this full Persian 6-in-1, you'll notice that I've picked out 4 colors here, and they don't go particularly well together. Okay, so it's not really about that. This is about having a lot of high contrast so that you can really see how to do this. So in my written tutorial, I basically did this by A, B, C, and D. Okay, but you know, these could all be one color, these could all be the same color, but I want you to see how this is going to work. And in order to learn something, you know, a lot of times it's just a lot easier to use multiple colors, high contrast colors, so that you can really see what's going on. Okay, so let's go ahead, and I'm going to be using the C jump rings first, and I'm going to pick up 2A jump rings and 2B jump rings, or I'm sorry, O-rings. These are rubber O-rings. They're all closed. You don't have to worry about opening and closing them. And they're the part of this that's going to make it stretchy. Okay, so that's one, and I'm going to do a second one through all 4 again. And I definitely encourage you, with any weave that you learn, you know, do a little bit of practice weave first. In some cases, you just want to do a little tiny bit. In other cases, you want to put a whole bracelet together, perhaps, before you go and try and do, you know, something that you really want to wear or sell. Okay, so I want to show you that I'm taking the B O-rings and I'm pushing them back. So you see that the jump rings, the C jump rings, are in the middle, and I'm taking the A O-rings, I'm sorry, the B O-rings, and pushing them back over the A O-rings. Okay, so you see that? So I'm pushing the A's so that they sit between the 2 B's, and everything's still sitting in between these, being held together by these 2 jump rings that I just added. Okay, so now I'm going to take the next jump ring, which is the D. Okay, and what I want to do, get this so this is very hard to show at the beginning because everything wants to move around. You're just holding it with your fingers. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to shoot down between these 2 jump rings, and I want to go through the I, which is the overlap between the A and the B O-rings. Okay, Okay, so see how I'm actually shooting down inside. I'm between the two jump rings, and I'm shooting down inside those green O-rings, which are the A O-rings, and I'm trying to get through the hole that's between them. Okay, and I see when I flip it over to the other side, I'm not quite grabbing this yellow O-ring, so I'm going to push that back a little bit further. Okay, so that when it feeds through, okay, so see, now you can see that pathway through. So you can see that this was going through both the A and the B pairs of O-rings, and it's splitting the C jump rings. Okay, so now before we move on to the next step, and before we close this ring, what I want to do is I want to pick up my next color, which is going to be the A again, because this is the B. I'm going to pick up my next color of O-ring, and I'm going to pick up one on this side and one on this side. And I will close. Okay, so now I need a second ring to go through this same path. Now I've made it a little bit easier because, as you can see, it's all holding its place, and now I can easily see how to get down that hole. But remember that when we come up with the second one, we're going to have to grab these new green O-rings that we just picked up, so that can make it a little bit more complicated. So I'm going to shoot down through the hole. I'm between the first two jump rings. I'm passing through the eye that's between the A and B O-rings. Coming around that first green O-ring, and I'll let it hook onto the other side, and I can close. Okay, so that's my first row that I've added of half Persian 6 and 1. Okay, and now this unit is already becoming somewhat stable. Okay, and you can see that this this first set of B O-rings is coming to a little point, and we're going to have that chevron pattern going throughout, and you can see it here too with the first pair of jump rings. You see that chevron pattern. When we're looking at both the O-rings and the jump rings, we're going to have that chevron pattern going the whole way through. Okay, so these are the next O-rings I'm going to pick up. I'm going back to my turquoise. Just to mention, back when I created this written tutorial that goes with this, I didn't have matte colored jump rings, but I felt like the matte would help you see on the camera a little bit better. So it's going to be slightly different than in the tutorial, but okay. So again, we're splitting these pink, the D jump rings. We're going in between them, and you see how I'm going through the eye that's between the A and the B O-rings, or the yellow and the green. Okay, and I'm making sure when I come out this other side that I am again splitting those jump rings. I'm coming up between the jump rings. I'm inside the circle of the green O-rings. Okay, and then I'm going to pick up a yellow on this side, flip it around, pick up a yellow on this side, and close. Okay, now I'm going to pick up my second ring, second jump ring of this row. Again, passing down through that eye and between the two pink jump rings. Coming around the yellows. Okay, and I close. Okay, so this is really all there is to it. We're going to just keep repeating this same step. So you can see now that I have the little chevron going with both my sky blue and my pink jump rings. you can see that I've got it going with my yellow and my green. And you can see as I'm holding this next yellow, you see how that's gonna lay eventually. Okay, so let's just do another row or two of this. Then hopefully you'll have it. Okay, so I'm splitting between the two jump rings. I'm going down through the eye that's the overlap of the green and the yellow O-rings. See, I'm making sure that I went through both of those greens. And make sure to come around the yellow. Pick up a new green, flip it around to the other side, pick up a new green, and close. Okay, very easy. But I wanted to show you all this because there's a lot of things that you can do with a full Persian. It's a very sculptural kind of element, and it leads into a lot of other things. Okay, so down through the green. I pass through the yellow and the green. I'm staying between the hang on a second, I didn't like that. I think I had this this ring pulled up, so let me reapproach. Let's see, that's so much easier. Okay. You can see I'm just adding another chevron with each row that I'm adding. I'll do another blue, shoot down between the two pink jump rings. Make sure when I come out the back that I'm coming through between the jump rings and that I'm passing through the center of this green ring. Okay, I'll pick up a yellow on this side and a yellow on this side. So like I said, once you get the hang of this, you can do this all in one color or two colors. You can do rainbows, you know, you can do anything you want. But getting this pattern down and practicing it in the first place is important. If you don't know it and you haven't done it before, this one can take a little bit of practice, especially starting out. Okay, and in just a minute, I am going to pause my video shooting, and I'm gonna move forward with this, and I'm gonna let you move forward with this. But when I come back in just a second, I'm going to show you how to close this and make it continuous. And that is the tricky part too. So keep in mind, if I was doing this with all metal jump rings, okay, I could do this in the exact same way. I would want to pre-close half of my jump rings as I went through the process. And that's called speed weaving of full Persian. So that's definitely a can do, and it will pose no problem for you. I like to teach people on rubber because it has a little bit of friction to the rubber. You can see it holds its place really well. Okay, so once you get into metal on metal, gravity works against you a little bit more. Things are just slightly more slippery. So the rubber is great, and you can see that eventually this bracelet's going to stretch. Okay, so this is making it stretchy. But when we do something in rubber and we want to make it stretchy, that means that we need to make that circle continuous all the way around. And learning to make a weave continuous is a trick unto itself. So let's go ahead and move forward, and I'll be back in just a second to show you how to finish this. Okay, so real quick here, I just wanted to show you another little speed tip, okay? As I was going along, this one occurred to me because this is the way I do it, but I wanted you to see the chevrons on both sides. Everything's looking great. Okay, so in order to make this even faster than we've already made it, what I'm going to do is pick up my jump ring. I pick up the next O-ring color that I know I'm going to add to the next row. I shoot down through my rings. And then I put the one on the other side. Okay, so just by picking up, you know how before I was picking them up after I got this ring through, now I'm going ahead and picking the first one up at the beginning. That way I don't have to turn it back around and add that one. Okay, and then when I add the second one, I like to just keep these new ones folded back, and it just keeps them out of my way, basically. Okay, so I can come up through each one, and they're not, you know, facing out at the top, so they're not getting in the way of me closing the next ring. So that's just a quick little tip for you to speed things up. Okay, so our bracelet length is complete, and we are ready to finish this thing off. So as I said, we are going to need to make this continuous. So what we're looking at is, first of all, notice that I started with an A ring and I ended with a B ring, okay, so that we can continue our colors the same way. We have the C and a C, and the only thing I'm going to add is a pair of these. But before we add this pair of rings to the end, this is what we need to do first. I am going to open, this is my starting end, so I'm going to reopen each of these rings. And I am going to, so see, I did both of the yellows, and so those are the part of the arrow that's going to get cinched together. So these are tucking in between the green rings. Okay, see how that's gonna, see how our little chevron, we want that in between. Okay, so now I'm going to open the second one that was from my starting row. Actually, I think I want to grab it this way. I just wanted the prong that was going to be away from me to be closer to this. Okay. That closed. Let me close this one. My first one wasn't quite closed perfectly. Okay. Okay, so now you can see that the only part that's missing is that this part is not chevroned. So you can see clearly we're going to need to have the pinks go through these yellow and greens inside of these blues, and that when it comes back up and around these guys, okay, that the pink is going to be to the outside of the green. So when we come up through here, actually let me have a little paper clip here. Okay, so when we come out through here eventually, okay, see how that's coming around the yellow on this side and just through the green, and it's going to be on the outside of the blue rings. But the first part of this, when we go down in between, what we want to be doing is we're going to shoot down through the eye, just like we did for every other row. It just becomes more complicated. Because this isn't open anymore. Okay, and there we go. Okay, so when I shoot down through the eye of the yellow and the green, okay, I'm going to be between the blue, and then out here I'm coming back up out through just the green and around that yellow. So let's go ahead and see if we can do this. And just keep in mind, this is the hardest step of it. You know, it's not easy to make something continuous, and the path is not always as clear as you'd like it to be. That's why I wanted you to do a practice one first. Okay, so I opened that jump ring just a little bit more than I normally would for a regular row, and I'm going to come in kind of from the side and see if I can get through that entire eye between the yellow and the green, and I did it. Okay, so now when it comes around, as I said, I'm going to pass through the greens, and I'm going around that yellow. Okay, so it's not too bad. Okay, and you can see that this pink, make sure to close that a little bit better. You can see that this pink is now in line with everything else, okay, along here, and it slants the right way. Okay, now for the other side. I think what I'm going to do is turn this around. The reason I rolled that around so that the inside was on the outside is so that as I pass through here, this is perhaps on a better side for me. So keep in mind that you can do that. You can roll things around inside out, okay? So I'm going to go down through. This one may be a little bit easier because the other one's holding it in place. Okay, so down through the center. So I was between these two jump rings again. Okay, I'm just mimicking what I did here, except for it's going to come up over through the greens on this side. Okay, and back out again. Okay, I know I made that probably look easy, and you may struggle depending on your, you know, how good you are at chainmail. If you're a really expert person, no problem. If you're just starting out and you're learning all your weaves still, that may be a little bit harder for you, okay? But now you can see we're all done. You can see that on every side of this looks the same. It's got the same chevron on it. It's got the chevron here, chevron here. Okay, this is a really useful weave. As you can see that this circle is pretty much holding its shape on its own, okay? It's not flimsy at all. And it can hold its shape too when it's metal on metal because it's got so many rings to it. And just to show you that this stretches, and probably the easiest way to get this onto the wrist is to roll it. So it's not going to lose its shape if you roll it onto over your hand and onto your wrist, okay? It's not super stretchy like a rubber band. It has a certain stiffness to it, but stretchy enough where you don't need a clasp. So that's a really useful thing to have with bracelets because you can just roll them on and off real easily. Okay, so now that we've done this in the ugly colors that didn't really, you know, these are okay, but these don't really go together all that well. You know, now, like I said, feel free to do this in, you know, in rainbows, in just a tone on tone. And you can also experiment with it in all metal rings, but I thought this would be a great thing to show you, and I hope you got a lot out of this lesson. If you like this lesson, please be sure to like and follow me on YouTube, and all of the materials for this project are available at beadmeastory.com. Thank you so much.